Hey Bobcat fans, welcome into the Frostburg Sports Awards Week 7 edition. This week we start off with our head coach of the week, men's football coach, Eric Wagner. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, Coach, big overtime victory on homecoming weekend against the Falcons of Notre Dame College. First in program history, a 33-30 double overtime win. What a way to go out on homecoming Saturday. Just first off, your thoughts on the game.
It's a great way to go out on homecoming, and obviously Notre Dame's been a thorn in our side for a while here, so it was nice to get the victory. But I think the biggest part of it was bouncing back off the two losses the last 2 weeks and losing those at the end in dramatic fashion and continuously preaching to our guys to finish. And that was the one thing that we talked about. We actually talked about playing all 60 minutes, and little did we know we needed 60 minutes and a couple overtimes. So that was the biggest thing for us.
Coach, one thing we talk about just week in and week out is how good the defense of this Bobcats team is. And you look at that first half, they played 2 big red zone stops to hold Notre Dame to just field goals. And then, of course, later in the game, a couple of big sacks, a couple of big interceptions on Chris Brim. What's the message been to that defensive squad all year long that you've been able to preach this consistency with them and just have them perform week in and week out?
Well, Coach Rhodes has talked to them a lot about being more physical each and every week, and some of the things the takeaways that we had, 2 interceptions and the forced fumble, are things that were really preached this last week. When you looked at Notre Dame and you went down through their stats, you noticed that they had 10 fumbles on the year but only lost 2 of them, and they were very good at making people pay for their mistakes, and we talked about how we had to change that for them, and we had to get our offense extra possessions, and we took the 3 turnovers, the surprise onside to get us some extra possessions to give our offense enough chances to go down there and score and win the football game.
Coach, you beat me to the punch with the surprise onside. We'll get to that here in just a second. But you mentioned some of the things that Notre Dame does really well. And one of the things they had done well was Cameron Shirkey, their kicker. Hadn't missed a kick yet this year. And, of course, Frostburg State, we got a pretty good kicker as well. And Dane Kuntz, MEC Special Teams Player of the Week this week, 4 for 4 in that game. 55-yarder was pretty surprising. And, of course, the overtime winner as well. What's it like to have a kicker like that behind your offense? You know, if you can't get into the end zone on that 4th down, you can bring Dane out. You got a pretty good shot to put up some points. And just as well, he can pull off the surprise onside kick.
For sure. It's a luxury that not everybody has, and you get spoiled by it. Some things earlier in the year, maybe kicks would have done different or things like that, or approached it more with Dane. He's such just a level-headed person that it doesn't matter how his pregame goes, doesn't matter how the week went when he gets out there for a game. You know he's going to be spot on. He's great at home. Absolutely. I don't know if he's missed one this year at home. I think the only misses we've had have been on the road. So when we got into it and knew, hey, all we need was a field goal at the end, we knew Dane was going to be there and he's going to come through. Like I said, he's just extremely clutch and a hard worker at it too. It's something that the reason he's so good is because all the time and effort that he's put into it.
We'll turn the conversation to the offense here a little bit. I want to examine just that third quarter. I mean, it seemed like after the surprise onside, you recover that football, and then lightning in a bottle seemed to happen as you explode for these 10 unanswered points. The field goal, of course, a big interception turns to a touchdown as well. But the one thing I want to focus on was Kasaya Barnes coming in and taking some snaps, getting some time in that football game. He looked pretty good. What'd you like about his game against Notre Dame?
Well, we've been working towards that, getting him more comfortable and really getting the whole offense comfortable with doing it. A lot of people like to think you can just draw up a play, put it in that week and run, and it takes a little bit more than just getting that to go. And we can't get to a situation where, hey, Kasaya's in the game, everybody run, because Kasaya can throw the ball too now. So you got to build off of that. There's a lot of things that he can do, and his athleticism is something that's just you don't coach it. It's God-given from the day he was born, and I really wish he would have broke the tackle with the safety, because I'd like to see how fast he could have been in the open field. He's one of the most dynamic players that I think we have in the program, and caught him off guard too, which helped from that aspect.
Talk about some dynamic players. We'll switch the conversation to the running backs. Sean Aaron had a big game, 3 touchdowns in that game. And, of course, on the first play of the first overtime, breaks right in and scores that touchdown to put you guys up top. But just talk about his performance this week, how pivotal that was.
It was great. I mean, we need him and Josh Maxwell and Evan Branch and those guys all be ready to go. What you're going to get with running backs is they're never going to play all 11 games. They're just not going to. Sean was a little banged up for the Pembroke game, wasn't as well, was able to rest, get himself healed up. Josh was banged up, obviously didn't dress out and didn't play against Notre Dame. Trying to keep those guys healthy as much as possible, or at least having one of those guys ready to go is really important. And Sean put a lot on his shoulders, and it was huge. The touchdown to start overtime was great because at that point, even though they ended up scoring, you just had this. It was a momentum thing through overtime that took us like, okay, we scored first play, and it took them a little while, but they scored, and then we went in, and the second overtime, you had that feeling like, man, all the momentum's behind us, and that play was really one of those big. But two of them in the game, the one right before halftime too. I know they got down there and they got a field goal right before half, but still the touchdown, the catch out of the background, great out of the backfield, great throw by Graham there, just put it up and let him catch. 2 times in that game where he really helped us swing momentum our way.
Well, big overtime win against Notre Dame College. The Falcons this week at homecoming. Now next week, looking ahead, it's the Cardinals of Wheeling, and they're coming off of a tough 1-point loss to UNC Pembroke. And Frostburg State, they've liked that matchup in the past, undefeated so far. You look back to last year, 41-17 the score in that one. And I mean, a big second quarter, 2 touchdowns, the field goal. What are some of your expectations in that game? What are you looking for this weekend out of Wheeling?
Well, they're coming into the game 4-2 also, and probably frustrated because they had an opportunity to win at home and would probably put them at the top of the conference with Concord and Notre Dame. They're going to be fired up, ready to go. They've been good. They got a great tailback. Number 4 is extremely. We've played against them last year, and he was a tough guy to bring down. Their quarterback's dynamic. They got some receivers that can catch and present some problems in their size. Defensively, they've always been tough. They got a lot of guys coming back, and I know that was our fall score, but when you go back to 2021, the spring score was a lot closer. They are well coached. They don't quit. They play hard. They're physical. They're at home. We now have to come on the road after a double overtime victory, and we got to make sure our guys understand, hey, all that stuff's behind us, and this is the game that matters, and we're preaching every day, wheeling. It is going to be a very tough football game in that aspect, and we're going to continue to preach those 60 minutes that they got to play the whole game through and finish it like we just did.
Coach, thanks for joining us this week.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Frostburg State fans, stay tuned. This is week 7 of the Frostburg Sports Awards. That was our head coach of the week, Eric Wagner of men's football. Coming up next, it's the running back, Sean Aaron, after a big 3-touchdown week against Notre Dame College. That's coming up after this. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Continuing on with week 7 of the Frostburg Sports Awards, and we continue with our male athlete of the week, redshirt freshman running back, Sean Aaron. Sean, a fantastic week you had against the Notre Dame College Falcons. 73 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 37 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. A career high of 3 touchdowns on the night. Just your general reaction of your performance in the team's play against Notre Dame.
Well, first off, I got to give glory to God, because without him, nothing is possible. But I would say that's like one of our first complete games that we've played, and resulted in a win. Hard fought. It was points where like things got a little rocky, but we persevered. We got through it. Defense played great. Offense made the plays when we needed to make the plays, and we got the job done. So.
You mentioned your offense making plays and getting the job done. One of the guys who certainly got the job done was Dane Kuntz. I mean, 4 for 4 from the special teams line, a 55-yard sink. I mean, the question I guess I have for you is, what's it like, to have a guy like that in the locker room, to play with a guy like Dane, who's just such a skilled kicker?
One thing I will say is never really much doubt when like Dane goes out there. Like we say, Dane time. It's like this thing we say because he's like automatic. Is anytime he steps on the field, he's always producing some type of great, he's great.
Take a look at some more of the offense from that game. One of the guys who came in, we haven't seen a lot of all year, Kasaya Barnes, stepped in for his first look at quarterback. What'd you like out of Kasaya's game?
Loved it, honestly. Glad to see that he got a chance to showcase his talents. We opened up the offense, showed different looks. It's great not being one-dimensional. It's great being able to attack your opponent in many different areas. So, yeah, loved it all.
You mentioned not being one-dimensional. One of the things we've seen this year, whether it's Graham being out, Isaiah stepping in, or Kasaya in for Isaiah as well, or whether it's you and Josh Maxwell, Evan Branch coming in, there's a lot of depth, a lot of next man up going on throughout the season. Is that is it a message from the coaching staff, or just a culture in the locker room that, hey, we all have to be ready to go because anybody can go tomorrow?
I feel like it's just like the Frostburg way in a sense. For this week in particular, the starter, Josh Maxwell, he was out, he wasn't playing, and you know, I knew like, all right, I had to, you know, got some shoes to fill. Then you got Evan, he had to come up, step up too. So it's like, it's just a mindset we have. QB room, Graham went out a week, 2 weeks actually. Isaiah stepped up, you know, he did what he had to do. So next man up, like you said, that's the mindset that we have.
Well, and you talk about like the running back room that you have right now with you, Josh, and then Evan. Well, last season with Gavin Lavata and Malcolm Facey, Josh Maxwell, you got to see a lot of those guys play. Now, of course, playing a season with Josh, what have you learned from running backs like that? How has your game evolved from learning from them and playing with guys like that?
Well, yeah, I was thankful to be able to be a part of a RB group like that, like especially one that was so diverse in many areas. Like Gavin was like a power back, Malcolm power back, Josh finesse speed. It was no particular way that RB room was. Like they could hit you from many different areas. So I was blessed to be a part of it.
So looking ahead to next week, I mean, 3 touchdowns last week. You might have some big shoes to fill for yourself coming up next week against Wheeling. But, you know, 4-2 on the year so far, 3-2 in the Mountain East. How do you guys feel about your season so far as a team, as a running back core? And for you, what does that week-to-week preparation look like looking ahead to the Wheeling Cardinals?
Well, as far as the season, you know, we've had our ups, we've had our downs, but you know, we're going to finish strong, keep pushing. It was never a doubt that we were going to finish the season strong. Always put maximum effort forth, and yeah, really, it's no different. We look at every week the same. Like for me, it's just like it's another day in the office. Honestly, like we have the same approach week to week to week. No matter who we playing, we could be playing a team with the best record in the conference or the team with the worst record in the conference. We approach no team differently. Everyone gets approached the same.
That was redshirt freshman running back Sean Aaron, our male athlete of the week here on the Frostburg Sports Awards Week 7. Stay tuned. Coming up next, it's the field hockey goaltender Madison Manolanson, our female athlete of the week. That's coming up next here on the Frostburg Sports Awards. All right, Bobcats fans, it's time for our third segment of Week 7 of the Frostburg Sports Awards, and this segment kicks off with senior goalkeeper from field hockey, Madison Manolanson. Madison, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So, big homecoming weekend just coming off of 10 saves to take down the number 4 ranked Millersville. That was Millersville's first loss of the year, and of course, the comeback win over Maryville. Just talk about the weekend for you as a goalkeeper and, of course, as a program, taking down Millersville. That's a big ranked win over a ranked opponent.
Just speechless as usual. I mean, for me it feels good because I've been here for the past 4 years, and it just feels like all the hard work that myself and the whole team has done and the people before us have done. So it just means a lot that we get to actually be recognized for what we can actually do. And it's amazing, I'll be honest.
Well, you touched on it a little bit there, the national recognition, and so one of the things I'll say is congratulations. You've garnered some accolades this year as well. NFHCA watch list, that was beginning of the year, and you know, it just has to feel nice, as you mentioned, after building this program to kind of start to get that recognition, so congratulations for that.
Thank you. It's definitely weird. It's not something that I planned was going to happen at all this year. I just wanted to have a good senior season.
We talk about that defense this weekend, this season. Of course, you know, only having to make one save in the Maryville game, at least one accredited save. And you know, one of the big parts of the defense, Emily Hughes, of course, she fell out with injury. Now the defense has kind of stepped up around that absence and played very well in front of you. Talk about the improvements you've seen out of them just over the season and maybe over the course of the program build.
It just seems like everyone just has like a great mindset now. Even myself, like I've had a good one, and like it kind of just progressively grew and just started to be where we are now, and I don't know, everyone stepped up. I had a really bad game Monday, and for me, and just how anyone else will see me play, I just didn't do as good, and everyone stepped up for me and just for themselves, and it was just great to see that everyone is amazing, obviously. I think my whole team's amazing.
7-4 this year would say you're pretty good. And you know, if we zoom out the picture there, that's 7-4 this year, but just 5 wins over the last 3 seasons combined. I mean, to have that number beaten already has got to feel really good for a program and good for you as well. I mean, maybe talk about some of that growth. You touched on it a little earlier, but just the fact that you've been able to string together 7 wins and put together really a great program this year, 2 national victories. I mean, it's got to feel pretty good.
It's just everyone put in the work. I put in the work. I know that the freshmen came in, put in all their work, and everyone just wanted to prove everyone wrong because we've been crapped on. So all the time I've been at Frostburg, so it's just, we're like, this is not who we are. We're not a crappy team. We're good, and now we want to prove it, and that's where we are now.
Certainly done a good job of proving it. Last thing here for you, Madison, just to kind of get into the game day vibe here. So hit me with your go-to game day artist, if you have one, to hype you up pregame, and one thing you have to do before every game to get locked in.
It is Kesha, is my game day artist, and it's more just like a couple coffees and a Monster Energy drink. And
Well, Bobcat fans, that'll wrap things up for the Week 7 Frostburg Sports Awards. Thanks to Madison Manolanson for joining us. As well, thanks to Eric Wagner and Sean Aaron for being on the program. We'll see you back here next week for Week 8.